Hey everyone, and welcome back to the series on Python. In the last session, we talked about conditional statements. We learned what they are. In this session, we are going to take a look at each type of conditional statement in detail. Let's get started. So, this is just the revision in what we learned about conditional statements in the last session. We learned that conditional statements are statements in which basically a condition or multiple conditions are checked, and if they are true, a group of statements is executed, and if not true, another group of statements is executed. So basically things happen according to a condition in conditional statements. We also saw that there are three types of conditional statements. The first one is simple if, the second one is if else, and the third one is if else. So today in this session we will study about each of those in much detail. Let's get started with that. The first one is simple if statement. So in simple if statement, a single condition is checked, and if it is true, a group of statements is executed. Basically, what happens in simple if is there's a single condition, okay, and if that condition came to be true, a group of statements is executed, and if not true, nothing will happen. So that's what a simple if statement is. So this is the format of simple if statement: if, and then the condition, and if this condition is true, these statements will evaluate, these will run, and if this condition is not true, let's say if the condition is false, nothing will run, or not nothing, but these things will not run. These things that are written under this if statement block, these will not run. So let me show you a real life example of this actually. Let's say let's say if uh, just a second, feeling hungry. So basically if we are feeling hungry, what we will do is eat food. If we are feeling hungry, if this condition is true, right, if the condition of feeling hungry is true, then we will eat food. But if we are not feeling hungry, we won't do anything, or we will do whatever we want after this, but we will not basically eat food, right? So that's what a simple if conditions real example looks like. Now let's show you a Python example of it right in ideally. So today I am going to be using a script mode to work because it will be much easier than interactive mode. I also suggest you to use the script mode itself because it will be easier for us to write if statements or conditional statements in script mode. So let's say if, and the form in the format we have add the condition now. So let's say the condition is 2 is equal to 2, and if this condition is true, we want to, let's say, do print condition was true. Now if you notice properly, as we finished the if statement and added the colon because it was part of the format, the cursor automatically came uh, came to the came to this position. Basically by this position I mean indented position. It's not to its base position like at this place. It's indented a little bit towards right. It's because it's telling us to write the next commands that will come inside if statements, and it's compulsory whenever we are adding if statements. We have to add the next statements that will come inside if statements indented. If let's say this was not indented, this will not be the part of this if statement. This will be the base part, and by base part I mean this will be executed no matter this condition is true or false, as we do, right? But if we indent this forward, this means that this statement is now part of this if statement, and it will only run if this condition is true. So let me just show you. Let's save this file first. Let's press Ctrl S, and let's just save this as testfile.py. Now that I have saved it, let's go ahead and run this, and see, we got condition was true. The reason is this condition here was true. Now if I change the condition, let's say 2 is equal to 3, obviously this is false, right? 2 is not equal to 3. So we should not get this thing. We should not get condition was true output, because this statement is under this if condition. And if this condition is false, obviously this should not happen. So let's see what happens now. See, we got nothing this time. It's because the condition was false. But hold on. What happens when we do this? Print hello. Is this statement part of this if command or if block? Yes, it's because it's indented. Also, you have to make sure that each indentation is having the same amount of spaces or tabs. So by default, in ideally, it takes 4 spaces. That is the recommended indentation by Python. So what do you think? If this condition is true, let's say first of all true, both should be printed out, right? Let's try this. Yes, we got condition was true and hello. But what happens when I do this? Obviously we know condition was true, this thing will not come because this condition is false. But what about this? This should also not come, right? Because the condition written over here is false, and these both statements come under this if block. So both of these statements should not run. Let's see what happens. Yes, we got nothing again. But let's say we wanted to print hello anyway. We don't care about this condition right now. We just want to print hello. So what do we do in this situation? Well, we will just remove the indentation like that. Okay. So now this statement is on its root level. It's not inside this if block like this print statement. It's on the root or base level, you can say. So this statement will run no matter this condition is true or false. So let's see. Obviously this condition is false right now, so it should not be uh, printing this, but it should print hello this time. Let's see. Yes, we got hello as expected. So this is simple if. In this statement, basically a single condition is checked, and if that condition is true, we execute a separate group of statements. It can be multiple, obviously, as I showed you. Let's say by. So if this single condition is true, a group of statements will be executed, and if not, the flow of the program will come out of the if condition or if block. That's it. So I hope this was clear to you, and this was just a real life example of what if block or simple if statement. Basically, when we feel hungry, we eat food, right? So that's what I just showed you to make this thing more clear to you. So let's move ahead now. Next is if-else statement. Now, in if-else statement, a single condition is checked. Again, we have a single condition, not multiple. Okay, so notice this. A single condition is checked, and if it is true, a group of statements is executed, and if it is false, another group of statements is executed. In the previous one, we just had this part, right? We had if, then condition, and then group of statements. But in this one, we have another thing. We also have an else part along with if. So basically, if this single condition will be true, obviously these things will be executed, right? This group of statements will run. But what happens when this condition is false? Well, in simple if, nothing used to happen. The control would just return to its base level. But in this situation, in if else, the control will go into else part. And if this condition is false, the block under else part is going to run. Let me just show you. Let's first of all show a real life example of this too. Just a second. So let's say this time if phone is charged. Okay, so let's say we have a phone, and if the phone is charged, basically phone is charged is the condition. Just a second. If phone is charged, make a call. So basically this is till now this is just simple if. So if phone is charged, we want to make a call. But now what if it's not charged? Because this is if else block, right? So else, what do we want to do? Well, we want to plug the charger. Okay, so we want to plug the charger because it's not charged. So this is a real life example of if else block. So first of all, we are checking if the phone is charged. If the phone is charged, we want to make a call. But if the phone is not charged, we will come to else block and we will plug the charger so that the phone gets charged, right? So this is just a real life example of if else block. Now let's see it in Python. Let's again open this up and continue with the same example. Let's get rid of this part and let's say else this time. Let's also just remove the print hello thing. And now inside of else, let's say print condition was false. Okay, so in the first one we have 2 is equal to 3. Sorry, in the condition we have here is 2 is equal to 3. So if this condition is true, this thing will happen, because if the condition is true inside if block, obviously this thing will happen, right? But if the condition is false, the control will come into else block, and this group of statements, which is only one statement over here, not exactly a group, this will run. Okay, so obviously first of all let's just go ahead and make the condition true. So what do we expect? We expect this thing, right? Because the condition is true. Let's see the output. See, we got condition was true. But now let's make the condition false again. See, we got condition was false, right? Because the control of the program came into else and this thing got executed. It can also be multiple statements. Again, it does not has to be a single one. Let's say by. Let's run this. See, we got both condition was false and by. Also, if you are coming from backgrounds like C or C++ or many other languages, you might have seen instead of colon and indentation, what we use is curly braces like that, and inside of this we write the condition, sorry, not condition, the block. But in Python we use colon and indentation. Again, the indentation in each level should be the same, and if it will not be the same, Python will throw an error. So let me just show you. Let's increase a space over here and let's run this now. See, we got unexpected indent. It's because the indentation is not same. So let's move on now. The next one is, sorry, this is 3, not 2 exactly. This should be 3. The next one is if-elif-else statement. Now until now we only used to have one condition, but in this one we will be having multiple condition. In if-elif-else statement, multiple conditions are checked. If the first condition is false, the control comes to the next condition and so on. If none of the conditions are true, the control goes to the else statement. So let me just show you this with a real life example so it will be much clearer to you. Okay, so uh, in this situation we have multiple conditions. The first one is if there is electricity. So if there is electricity, let's say we want to watch TV, but let's suppose we don't have electricity and this condition got false. No, wait, first of all, let's say this condition was true, right? So there was electricity. Then we will watch TV and we are not going to do any of these things. We will not come to Elif and we will not come to else. We will just watch TV and move on out of this situation. We will move out of it. But let's say there was no electricity now. Now what will we do? Well, if there is not electricity, we will come to the next thing or next condition, which is phone is charged. So let's say if the phone is charged, okay. So firstly, let's say the phone is actually charged. So we will just use phone and we will not come to else, okay. So if this condition is true, we will execute this block or this thing, and we will not go to else. We will directly skip out of this thing. But let's say the phone is charged condition is also false. Let's say a phone is not charged. Now what do we do? Well, we will come to else. Okay. So in else we are just doing sleep. Basically we are just sleeping. So neither there is electricity nor the phone is charged. So we don't have anything to do now. So we are just going to sleep. This is just a real life example of if elif else. Basically what I mean in if elif else is there are multiple conditions first of all, and let's say if the first condition got true, then the control will not see any of the elif or else, and there can be multiple elif. There might be one more elif in between and one more condition. It doesn't matter, there can be any number of elifs as we want to add, okay. But the point is if any of the condition, let's say if the first condition got true, the program will not go to any other condition after this condition which got true, okay. The flow of the program will directly quit the if elif else block, and it will directly come out to the base block or to the base or root block of the program. But let's say if the first condition was false, then it will move on to the second condition, and if it was true, the program will execute that thing, and it will then skip the next elif or else that it will encounter, and it will directly jump out of this if block or if else block. So basically the control will keep checking the conditions until any one of them gets true, and if any one of them gets true, the program will just quit out of the if else block. So now let's see in IDLE. Now let's just add to this thing only. No, let's use another example. So now in this example we have made a variable called a, in which we are storing a value 1. So first of all we are checking if a is equal to 0. If this condition is true, print a is 0 and just move out of this thing. Let's just add another print at the base level. So let's say end. So if this thing will be true, the program will print a is 0 and it will directly skip out to line number 12, basically print end. It will not check any of these things if the first condition got true, but if it was false, it will come to the next statement, that is the next elif statement, a is equal to 1, and if a is equal to 1, it will do this and it will again skip the next elif and else and directly jump to print end. But again, if it was not 1, it will then check for this condition, that is equal to 2, and it will just move on. And if none of these conditions, that is none of the if or elif conditions got true, the program will come to else and print this, that is a is any other value. So in this situation, obviously a is equal to 1, right? So this condition should be true, and we should get a is 1. And after this condition got true, the control should get out of this whole if elif else block, and it should directly jump to print end. So we should get end also. So we should be getting a is 1 and end as the output. Let's see what we get. Yes, we got a is 1 and end. It's because this condition was true. So it printed out a is 1 and then jumped directly to the base level after quitting this if-elif-else block. Now let's say we wanted to check all the conditions, because there can be situations where multiple conditions can be true. So let's say we make another variable b is equal to 2. Now let's change the conditions. Let's say if a is equal to 1 and elif b is equal to 2, print b is 2. Now you may think this will work, but hold on. Here both the conditions are true. So what do you think will happen? Well, obviously, if the first condition got true, the program will directly jump to print end, right? Because it is not going to check these next conditions. And also, one quick note, else statement is not compulsory, right? We can also skip else. So we can also make a if fourth type of conditional statement if elif block. But I just put that in if elif else only. So we can skip else if we want to. Okay, so first of all, let's see a is equal to 1. This condition is true, but Python will not check about this. It will directly jump to print end, right? But let's say we want to check multiple conditions. Let's say we want to check this thing as well. So first of all, to prove it will not check both of these conditions, let's just run this and see. We got only a is 0 and end. But if you notice properly, b is equal to 2, this condition is also true, right? We have made a variable over here, b is equal to 2, and we are checking if b is equal to 2 or not. So this should be true. But this didn't run because it's under elif. And elif will only run if the previous if or elif was false. So what's the solution to this? Well, we can convert this elif into if. And that's how we can check both of these conditions, right? So basically, this is not the fourth or fifth type. This is just a simple if statement 2 times. Okay, so this is a simple if statement written 2 times. So this will check both of these conditions, and in this case both of those conditions are true. So it should print a is 0, b is 2, and then end. Let's see. Yes, we got a is 0, then b is 2, and then end as expected. Now we don't want to do this always, right? So let's say there can be situations where multiple conditions can be true, but we only want to check once. That is, we only want to check the conditions if the previous conditions were false. So in that situation we are going to be using elif, and in most of the situations we will be using elif. Okay, so it's a good practice to use elif in place of multiple if statements. Also, this will make the program more optimized, because uh, program might not check multiple conditions in many situations, thus making it so that it doesn't consume much processing power. Now this is just the format of the if elif else condition. I forgot to show you, but I just showed you in examples, right? So if condition and then block, then elif, obviously there can be multiple elifs, as I told you, right? There can be infinite number of elifs, as much conditions as we want to check. Okay, so this is it for this session on Python about conditional statements types. So I hope this was helpful to you, and if you have any doubt about any of the things that I discussed today, please feel free to comment in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.